You have spent your entire life negotiating for affection. You soften your edges. You bite your tongue. You shrink your presence. All for the fleeting reward of a smile, a nod, a temporary validation. You trade your autonomy for the illusion of safety, believing that if they like you, they will not destroy you. You are wrong. Affection is the weakest currency in human dynamics. It is volatile, entirely dependent on the emotional weather of others, and evaporates the moment your interests diverge from theirs. You have been playing a losing game, constructed by a society that prioritizes compliance over competence, docility over dominance. The architects of history did not build empires on smiles. They built them on a currency that does not fluctuate with mood. They built them on respect, and when necessary, the cold, anchoring gravity of fear. To break free from this cycle, you must first amputate your dependency on external validation. This is not a matter of simply changing your attitude. It is a fundamental rewiring of your psychological infrastructure. When you operate from a desire to be liked, you give others the power to audit your worth. You place your center of gravity outside your own body. They dictate the terms. They hold the leash. Every time you compromise your own standard to accommodate someone else's comfort, you signal that your boundaries are negotiable. People scan for this weakness constantly. It is an evolutionary reflex. When they detect that you are eager to please, they do not reward you with loyalty. They classify you as a resource to be consumed. Machiavelli understood a structural flaw in human software. Men are quicker to betray someone they love than someone they fear. Love is sustained by an obligation that, because human nature is inherently self-interested, is broken whenever it serves their purpose. Fear is sustained by a dread of consequence that never leaves them. Operating entirely on love and likability makes you fragile. When people like you, they expect you to conform to the version of yourself they find most convenient. The moment you step out of that box, the moment you assert a need that conflicts with theirs, the affection turns to resentment. But when you are respected, when there is a calculated apprehension regarding what you are capable of, your boundaries are absolute. Comment, I trade affection for authority. Transitioning from the pursuit of affection to the extraction of respect requires a tactical withdrawal of your availability. Familiarity breeds a dangerous comfort, and comfort breeds contempt. When you are always present, always accommodating, always eager to assist, you devalue your own stock. You become ambient noise in their lives. The sovereign mind understands the application of absence. You must become a scarce resource. Limit your words. Delay your responses. Let them wonder what you are thinking. Let them fill the silence with their own insecurities. Humans project their fears onto a blank canvas. When you offer them nothing to react to, they are forced to confront their own internal monologue, and in that vacuum, your perceived power multiplies. There will come a moment when your new posture is tested. People who have fed on your compliance will sense the shift. They will probe your boundaries, often disguised as humor, casual disrespect, or passive-aggressive entitlement. This is the critical juncture. If you retreat, if you attempt to smooth things over to maintain the peace, you lose indefinitely. You must respond with cold, disproportionate finality. Not with rage. Rage is a leak of energy. Rage signals that they have disrupted your emotional baseline. Respond with a chilling, sterile exactness that leaves no room for misinterpretation. Look at them until the silence becomes unbearable for them. You demonstrate that crossing you carries an unacceptable cost. Do not confuse this with becoming a cartoonish tyrant or adopting an attitude of constant hostility. The highest application of this philosophy is indistinguishable from grace. You maintain polite, cordial interactions. You appear virtuous, calm, and reasonable. But this virtue is a chosen garment, not a prison. You wear it because it reduces friction, not because you are bound by it. The moment the situation demands ruthlessness, you shed the garment without hesitation or guilt. You are capable of extreme measures, but you keep your sword sheathed. Your politeness is a courtesy extended by a superior position, not a plea for acceptance from an inferior one. Comment, my virtue is a tactic, not a trap. To achieve this, you must eradicate guilt. Guilt is a mechanism installed in you by those who wish to extract your resources without resistance. When you act in your own self-interest, society labels it selfishness. They do this to keep you manageable. Discard this conditioning entirely. The guilt you feel when you say no, when you refuse to compromise, when you prioritize your own ascension, that guilt is an illusion. It is the friction of your old programming breaking down. Endure it. Let the guilt burn off until only cold clarity remains. Every time you choose your own advancement over the comfort of another, you harden your psychological armor. True respect cannot be negotiated. It must be extracted through leverage. You must build your own architecture of power. This means acquiring skills, capital, physical presence, and unshakable emotional control. When you need nothing from them, their ability to manipulate you drops to absolute zero. They will sense this impenetrable self-sufficiency. It unsettles people, but it forces their respect. They realize they cannot buy you, they cannot scare you, and they cannot ignore you. You become an undeniable fact in their environment. You must become the director of your own myth. People do not interact with the real you. They interact with the idea of you they hold in their heads. Shape that idea deliberately. Speak less. When you do speak, deliver conclusions, not the sprawling mess of your thought process. Let them project their own complexities onto your silence. A blank canvas is terrifying to the unprepared mind. They will paint you as larger than life, simply because you refuse to shrink yourself to their level of constant, meaningless chatter. Comment, I am the architect of my own perception. The rigid break, but the adaptable survive and conquer. Do not tie your ego to a fixed identity. Today, you may need to be the lion, overwhelming with sheer force of will. Tomorrow, the fox, navigating traps with silent precision. If your pride demands you always act one way, you are predictable. Predictability is a fatal flaw in the game of power. Abandon your need for a consistent persona. Your only consistency must be your commitment to the objective. Everything else is a tool, including who you appear to be. We arrive at the terminal truth. You are entirely alone in this existence. No one is coming to save you. No one is genuinely concerned with your ultimate victory. Their applause is conditional, their loyalty is rented, and their affection is a luxury you cannot afford to depend on. The dark power of respect is not about malice. It is about absolute, uncompromising reality. It is the decision to look at human nature without the romantic filters that blind the weak. It is the choice to stand firm on your own sovereign ground, demanding nothing, yet commanding everything. If you recognize the truth in these words, align yourself with this frequency by subscribing, and step into the architecture of your own sovereignty. The illusion of safety provided by likability is the most successful deception of modern culture. You are taught that to be good is to be harmless. But harmlessness is not morality. It is simply a lack of capacity. A harmless man is not virtuous. He is merely incapable of causing damage. Real virtue, real power, requires the capacity for absolute destruction, held in check by iron discipline. When you are harmless, you are liked because you are not a threat. You are a pet. Respect is reserved for those who have the teeth to tear the fabric of reality, but choose to keep their mouths closed. Consider the mechanics of a negotiation. The person who needs the deal the most has already lost. The person who is willing to walk away holds all the cards. This applies to every human interaction. If you enter a room needing to be liked, you are the desperate negotiator. You will concede your boundaries, your opinions, and your dignity just to secure their approval. The sovereign individual enters the room needing nothing. They are entirely willing to walk away into isolation rather than accept terms that diminish them. This emotional independence is terrifying to the masses, who huddle together for warmth in the cold reality of existence. To master this dynamic, you must dissect your own reactions. When someone dismisses you, when they ignore your input, where do you feel it in your body? That tightening in your chest, that flush of heat in your face, that is the ego screaming for validation. You must observe that reaction clinically. Do not act on it. Let the sensation pass. Train yourself to remain entirely passive in the face of disregard. By refusing to react to their subtle attacks, you starve them of the psychological payout they were seeking. You become a black hole for their manipulative energy. People are addicted to the predictable rhythms of social exchange. They insult you. They expect you to become defensive. They flatter you. They expect you to become compliant. Break the rhythm. When they insult you, agree with them in a monotone voice, stripping their attack of its power. When they flatter you, look at them with dead eyes and offer no gratitude. Disrupting their expectations causes a psychological system failure. They will not know how to process you. In that confusion, respect is born. Your environment must reflect your internal sovereignty. Cut the dead weight. Eliminate the relationships that require constant maintenance, the friendships based entirely on mutual complaining, the associations that drain your focus. You do not have the time or the energy to carry parasites. Ruthlessly audit your circle. If a connection does not elevate your position, sharpen your mind, or provide strategic value, sever it. Do so quietly, without drama. Simply withdraw your presence. They will notice your absence, but you will not care. The pursuit of power is not a moral failing. It is the fundamental reality of biology. Everything is a negotiation for energy and resources. The lion does not apologize to the gazelle. The storm does not ask permission to break the trees. You have been conditioned to apologize for your own strength. Stop. Reclaim your aggressive instincts. Channel them into calculated ambition. When you stop apologizing for your drive, when you stop trying to convince people that your success will not threaten them, you step into a higher echelon of existence. There is a profound freedom in accepting that you will be the villain in someone else's story. It is unavoidable. The moment you set a boundary, the moment you prioritize your own vision over their comfort, they will cast you as the antagonist. Let them. Their narrative has no bearing on your reality. Do not waste a single breath trying to correct their perception. To argue with their perception is to validate it. Let them harbor their resentment. It is the tax you pay for being exceptional. Every room you enter is a battlefield of perceptions. Most people walk in blind, unaware of the crossfire. You must walk in, like a tactician, surveying the terrain. Identify the power centers. Notice who speaks and who listens. Notice whose body language demands space and whose shrinks to avoid conflict. Do not rush to establish your presence. The most powerful person in the room is rarely the loudest. They are the one who dictates the pace. They speak slowly. They let silence stretch until it becomes uncomfortable for others, forcing the weak to rush in and fill the void. You are the architect. The blueprint is in your hands. You can continue building a fragile house of cards, dependent on the fickle wind of public opinion, or you can build a fortress of stone, grounded in the bedrock of unyielding self-respect. The transition is brutal. It requires you to mourn the death of your old, compliant self. But on the other side of that death is a life characterized by absolute clarity, undisturbed focus, and the kind of power that does not need to announce itself. Comment, I am the architect of my own perception. Remember this final axiom. People will forget what you said. They will forget what you did. But they will never forget the way you made them feel. If you make them feel comfortable, they will like you today and abandon you tomorrow. If you make them feel a calculated, unspoken awe, if you leave them with the distinct impression that you operate on a plane they cannot reach, they will respect you until their dying day. Demand nothing, command everything. If you recognize the truth in these words, align yourself with this frequency by subscribing. and step into the architecture of your own sovereignty.